Good day to everyone. I'm architect Ricardo H. Cisbreño, an OFW from Doha, Qatar, currently a senior architect with Dimensions Engineering Consultant. I have passion in architecture history and classical architecture.
Welcome to Historia de Arquitectura. Today we will be talking about the Pantheon of Rome, the temple for all the gods. The Pantheon of Rome is an ancient 2nd century Roman temple since 609 AD. It is a Catholic church in Rome, Italy, called the Basilica, Santa Maria ad Martires, or Basilica of Saint Mary and the Martyrs. It is perhaps the most famous and architecturally most influential ancient structure and a popular circular temple. The Pantheon of Rome was built as a pagan temple long before it became a church. The name Pantheon came from an ancient Greek word of pan, meaning all, and theon, meaning God. This temple is dedicated for all the gods. The Pantheon was built on the site of an earlier temple, which had been commissioned by Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa during the reign of Augustus in 27 BC to 14 AD. After the previous original building was burned down, the present building was ordered to be constructed by the Emperor Hadrian in 126 AD. The building is a unique circular plan with a rectangular portico with large granite Corinthian columns, 8 in the first rank, and 2 groups of 4 behind supporting the pediment. A rectangular vestibule links the porch to the circular main area, which is under a coffered concrete dome with a central opening to the sky called the oculus. 2,000 years after it was built, the dome of the Pantheon of Rome still stands as the world's largest unreinforced concrete dome, meaning this large concrete dome was built by the Romans without the use of steel reinforcement. The height to the oculus and the diameter of the interior circle are all the same, with a diameter of 43 meters. It is one of the best well-preserved of all ancient Roman buildings, in large part because it has been continuously in use throughout its history. In the 7th century, it was transformed into a church dedicated to Saint Mary and the Martyrs, and is also known as the Santa Maria Rotonda. The square in front of the Pantheon is called Piazza della Rotonda. The Pantheon is a state property managed by Italy's Ministry of Cultural Heritage and Activities and Tourism through the Polo Museale del Lazio. In 2013, it was visited by over 6 million people. The Pantheon's large circular dome called cella with a conventional temple portico front was unique in Roman architecture. Nevertheless, it became a standard basis of many architects during the Renaissance when classical styles were revived and used in the modern times. The portico in front of the Pantheon is an octastyle composed of 8 Corinthian columns, frontage spaced in a U-style pattern, which is considered to be the best proportion for a classical temple design. The gray granite columns that were used in the portico were quarried in Egypt at Mons Claudianus in the Eastern Mountains. Each was 60 tons in weight. These were dragged more than 100 kilometers from the quarry to the river on wooden sledges. They were floated by barge down the Nile when the water level was high during the spring floods, and then transferred to vessels to cross the Mediterranean Sea to the Roman ports. The large bronze doors to the cella, measuring 4.45 meters wide by 7.53 meters high, are the oldest in Rome, engraving by Francesco Piranesi, 1780. In front of the temple, there's a Latin inscription which reads Marcus Agrippa Luci Filius Consul terti VM fecit. In English, it reads Marcus Agrippa, son of Lucius, made this building when he was consul for the 3rd time. In 202, the building was repaired by the joint emperors Septimius Severus and his son Caracalla, for which there is another smaller inscription on the architrave of the facade under the aforementioned larger text. This now barely legible inscription reads, Imperator Caesar Lucius Septimius Severus, Pius Pertinax, Arabicus Adiabenicus Particus Maximus, Pontifex Maximus, Tribunicia Potestate Decima, Imperatorum Decima, Consul Tertia, Pater Patriae, Proconsul, et Imperator Caesar Marcus Aurelius Antoninus Pius Felix Augustus, Tribunicia Potestate Quintus, Consul, Proconsul, Pantheon Vetustate Corruptum cum omni culturis diterunt. In English it reads, Imperator Caesar Lucius Septimius Severus Pius Pertinax, victorious in Arabia, victor of Adiabene, the greatest victor in Parthia, Pontifex Maximus, 10 times tribune, 11 times proclaimed commander, 3 times consul, father of the country, proconsul, and emperor Caesar, Marcus Aurelius Antoninus Pius Felix Augustus, 5 times tribune, consul, proconsul, have carefully restored the Pantheon ruined by age. The dome of the Pantheon of Rome is known to be the largest concrete dome ever built without the use of steel reinforcement. Romans were the first people who discovered the use of concrete. In modern times, concrete is a mixture of cement, sand, gravel, and water. And in Roman times, they were using lime instead of cement. Roman concrete is a mixture of lime, gravel, and volcanic ash, which is called puzzolana. Puzzolana and lime, when mixed together, results to a chemical reaction that makes concrete waterproof. The Romans not only discovered the concrete, but they discovered a waterproof concrete. After the fall of the Roman Empire, the use of concrete was long forgotten and was only reused as a construction material 1,000 years later. Question: how did the Romans construct a large concrete dome without steel reinforcement? If you take a look at the section of the dome of the Pantheon, you can see that the thickness of the dome at the bottom part is quite thicker, and gradually it goes thinner as it goes to the upper part of the dome. The mixture of concrete are regular mix at the bottom part, and as it goes up, the mixture change into a lightweight concrete. Furthermore, below the dome are the recessed called the coffers. It acts not only as a decorative ceiling, but this makes the dome lighter and more rigid compared to the plain concrete surface. At the top of the dome is a hole called the oculus used as a source of light, and at the same time, it relieves the stress. This method of construction is exactly the same basic principle of the modern structural engineering. In 609, the Byzantine Emperor Phocas gave the building to Pope Boniface IV, who converted it into a Christian church and consecrated it to Saint Mary and the Martyrs on 13th May 609. Furthermore, in order that in the Old Temple to still be called the Pantheon, the church should be made to the Holy Virgin Mary and all the martyrs, so that the commemoration of the saints would take place henceforth. The building's consecration as a church saved it from the abandonment, destruction, and the worst of the spoliation that befell the majority of ancient Rome's buildings during the early Middle Ages. During the early Renaissance, Filippo Brunelleschi visited the Pantheon of Rome to study the construction and was inspired on how the dome was built, and later went back to Florence for the construction of the dome of the Florence Cathedral. During the time of Pope Urban VIII, he commissioned Bernini to construct 2 bell towers. Unfortunately, the people of Rome didn't like it. It has been often being called as the donkey ears. In 1883, the government finally ordered to take down the towers in order to bring back the Pantheon closer to its ancient looks. Today, the Pantheon is in use as a Catholic church, and as such, visitors are asked to keep an appropriate level of deference. Masses are celebrated there on Sundays and holy days of obligation, Weddings are also held there from time to time. The niches originally built by Emperor Hadrian in 125 AD were designed to house statues of the 7 planetary gods: the Sun, Moon, Venus, Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury, and Mars. Following the building's conversion to a Christian church, Santa Maria ad Martyrs in 609 AD, these spaces were repurposed to celebrate Christian figures and later, prominent historical figures. The first niche to the right of the entrance holds a Madonna of the Girdle and St. Nicholas of Bari, 1686, painted by an unknown artist. On the right wall is the Incredulity of St. Thomas, 1633, by Pietro Paolo Bonzi. The Chapel of the Annunciation with a Melozzo da Forlì fresco, the Coronation of the Virgin. In the second chapel is the tomb of King Victor, Emmanuel II, father of the country. The third niche has a sculpture of St. Anne and the Blessed Virgin by Lorenzo II. Painting of the Umbrian School, the Madonna of Mercy between St. Francis and St. John the Baptist. On the first niche to the left of the entrance is an Assumption, 1638, by Andrea Camasei. The second niche has a statue of St. Agnes by Vincenzo Felici. The third niche is the tomb of Raphael, famous artist for painting the School of Athens, Madonna of the Pinks, Deposition of Christ, and as one of the architects of St. Peter's Basilica. His sarcophagus was given by Pope Gregory XVI. The Latin inscription reads, Ille hic Raphael, timuit quo sospite vinci, rerum magna parens et moriente mori. In English, it reads, Here lies Raphael, by whom nature feared to be conquered while he lived, and when he was dying, feared herself to die. His fiancée, Maria Bibbiena, is buried to the right of his sarcophagus. She died before they could marry. Lastly, the present high altar and the apses were commissioned by Pope Clement XI in 1700 to 1721, was designed by Alessandro Specchi. This beautiful structure no longer stands as a pagan temple for all the gods. It now stands as the Basilica of St. Mary and all the Martyrs. So, this is the Pantheon of Rome, still the largest concrete dome ever built without the use of steel reinforcement, a real masterpiece of Roman engineering.